But with me here, I have a very special guest who will be talking to us a little bit about why he's here today. Good morning. You are
Sergeant Pat Poitevin from the RCMP. So I'm the Senior Investigator and Outreach Coordinator for the RCMP, dealing specifically on anti-corruption efforts.
Can you give us a little bit of a description about that?
Well, as you know, corruption is endemic in a lot of countries. And what we're here for in PDAC is to be able to do some outreach and prevention awareness with the industry to try to limit the risk and the exposure of Canadian companies operating outside of Canada, where they may be facing pressures to provide bribes and pay bribes to get the business going. The first thing, obviously, is to have a very strong compliance program. They need to be able to manage the risk, identify the risk of exposure to corruption in various countries. Now, there's various levels of risk, depending where they want to operate, but the big thing is to be prepared and to use strategies to be able to identify what those risks are and how to mitigate them. Because there's corporations, the extractive industry, operating without having to do any corruption, let's try it again. There's a lot of corporations, a lot of extractive industry companies that are operating in high-risk areas without paying bribes. So we've been talking to corporations here that are very ethical in their governance, how they approach things. And so you can succeed in building a business without falling into the cycle of corruptions. Corporations need to understand that once you get involved in this, it's not only the fact that it's illegal under the Corruption of Foreign Public Official Act. So all Canadian companies, Canadian individuals, fall under this act. So any operation that they have outside Canada, they must be able to comply with the laws. But it's not simply about the fine. It's just high costs related to corruption. Reputational cost. You have the fact that when you get in the cycle of corruption, you're more likely to be victimized and approached to have a shakedown, because once you pay a bribe, you'll never stop. So it impacts on their productivity, their production. It impacts on how they do business. And at the end of the day, is it really worth the risk? Because it's not just a reputational risk, the risk that they can be investigated, but what type of benefits are they really getting out of it?
For example, yes, I totally agree. I think a good example would be, like, for example, if someone does take a bribe and they one or two bribes, and then it's often seen later on, 6 months, 1 year, a year and a half later, all of a sudden they're busted and they get caught, and it cost them way, way more than what they made from that bribe. Is that correct?
Absolutely. If you look at the Nico and Griffith case, and you can look online in terms of the history of it, is that at the end of the day, it is any profit that's stemming from a corrupt activity, from a bribe, any contract that's obtained through bribery, all the profit stemming from it is proceeds of crime. So not only do you get a fine from being convicted, but any profit, it will be lost. So is it really worth the risk? Because you pay a bribe to get a contract. But, there's a lot of other factors come into play. Because any company here want to be able to obtain a contract through the value of their services and products, not on the amount of the bribe that they pay. So you want to have a level playing field. It's very competitive out there. Okay? And you want to be able to operate in a level playing field. But there's also not just cost of the company, but cost of the country. Because once you start paying a bribe and you pay those bribes to local public officials, the money, the benefits, the financial benefits from the exploration, from the business being installed, it doesn't go to the community, doesn't go to society. You have environmental degradation. You have major negative impact to those communities when bribe and corruption is rampant. So it's not just about the money, but the impact on that community, that country.
Very, very insightful. Thank you so much for your time and information. We really appreciate it. And this is Zachary Millardo reporting from Africa Trade PDAC 2014, Toronto, Canada.